Hey, my lovelies. Welcome back to another episode of Love That For Us. I am your friendly neighborhood unicorn, Jordan McKenzie. You never see me, and when you do, I be speaking truth. Yeah, thank you so much for tuning back in. I'm so happy. I hope y'all, accepted my apology with my last retake of the intro to make up for the first abomination of the first one, but that's fine. It's okay. We're already seeing growth. You're already seeing the progress, and that's what I want for you guys. But anyways, here we are. This episode I like to dedicate and call Same Shit, Different Decade. A topic about the school education. The system, the foundation of it. Why did school even become a thing? What was the purpose of school? What and why is school what it is today? And that is what this topic is about. And the only reason I'm bringing this back up is because I decided to re-enroll myself to finish my high school credits. High school and school in general was always something I had a really hard time with, but that's something I will continue on a little bit into the podcast. But I decided that, you know what, it was about time to go get my fucking high school diploma. Almost 25 years old, and I'm like, here we go, we're gonna do it. But with that, the hate and the resentment and, the kind of like stigmatism behind school and the education system was something I always just kind of like pondered on, was really heavy on my mind. So I decided to do a little bit more research into it, kind of give you guys a little, I don't know, maybe I'm just the only one, but like I just kind of feel it's a little funny, a little iffy, a little sexist, if you will, because the main topic we're gonna really pinpoint on is the gender equal bias fucking things about school. And this is just, here we go, right into it. So without further ado, my babies, while I do my makeup, because like I said, I need to do something while I fucking talk, because I get so off track. I'm gonna get off track anyways. But here we go. We're gonna start at the very beginning. You ready? You ready for this? I did a lot of research. I get a little too ahead of myself. I've never been a really good public speaker, but we're also going to get on to why I'm not. So like it's all going to make sense, okay? It's all going to make sense. Since the first schools in ancient Roman time occurred by the mid 4th century BC all the way up to recent times, education has always been a subject in debate on, gender equality issues. That's always been one big thing. It doesn't matter what century it was, what time, it's just, that's always been such a big thing. Big thing. Cannot tell me wrong, okay? And yes, we can admit throughout centuries, the foundation of the education system has evolved big time. And we're going to get to those points. We're going to talk about all of that, it's just, I'm just letting y'all know what's, I like to be organized. I like to be thorough. I like to fact check, I don't want to be spewing out random fucking facts and you guys be like, yeah, and turns out I'm just not. Okay, no, I want to make sure this is right. And it's not going to be like this every podcast, but when it comes to certain things, I want to be correct. So bear with me. This is going to sound a little boring, but I promise it is worth it. Show love. Trust the process. So anyways, as I was saying, since the whole school system, like not even system, but just the foundation, school itself started between the 4th century of BC, whatever. And yes, it has done a lot throughout years or whatever since then. But when we look back at like the original, like I guess we want to say the motive and like objective of what the school system was supposed to be, back then, it was really just to kind of like mainly focus on training citizens capable of participating in like political and cultural life, building the stepping stone next into like education involvement into the Middle Age, So virtually it was just like picking a needle in a haystack of those people that, were capable of doing, these political and cultural kind of like positions, rulers, as you will. Like, we've always had kings, and, there was always like a higher anarchy. Yes, that is the word, anarchy. Throughout centuries, like, honestly, there's always been someone who always made the rules. You had to follow by them. So, building onto these stepping stones, finding those people that could, make these rules and whatever that people had to follow. It eventually came into the Middle Ages. Between the 5th and 15th century, education was largely controlled by churches and strictly religious and moral curriculums. So back then, that's when like Jesus and the Bible and all that fun stuff was. I'm gonna let y'all know right now, I'm not religious. I'm very spiritual. I have nothing against any of that. Nothing. I'm just gonna make it plain and simple. I'm gonna tell it how it is. These are my beliefs. I'm not into any of that. If we really wanted to get into it, a lot of those religions came from the pagan religion. Who said that? That will be another podcast if you want to get into that. But anyways, in between the 5th and 15th century, the education system, foundation, as you will, whatever you want to call it, was religious based. Like, this is when people were really getting into all that stuff. But in this time, this is when people were learning how to like write and read, and you were like, what's the word? What is the word? I like to use proper wording. I like to be proper and pronounce words, and I don't know. I like to be elegant. But it was like a really pronoun and, high honor and like almost power tool to be taught and know how to read. Not many people knew how to do this. Like, this was not a common thing back then. And if you knew how to read and write, like, you might as well be up there with fucking Jesus. Like, it was a whole fucking thing. Privilege, that was the word I was looking for, making higher education still very limited until 12th century. Okay, there we go. So until the 12th century, when the emergency for the like first universities, like, this is when they were kind of like, okay, we need to expand this. Like, it was really hard to have like a set few people that knew how to like read and write, as like the world evolved and all that fun jazz. Like, there was other places the world, they had to kind of expand. Communities and countries were able to combine at this point. There wasn't just like a domesticated community. Like, this is when like the world really started to become their own countries, their own communities, their own individual environments, sort of thing. So like, they had to be able to keep power, but within these like regions, so they like set these higher positions in education and stuff, so they could keep like a control amongst the world, sort of thing, if you will. And by by modern age, education really underwent a deep transformation during the 15th and 18th century, creating more personalized and reflective education structures, making individuals' development more valued, and expanding education content, including sciences, mathematics, astronomy, physics, but still university exclusive, certain like courses and like higher education was still very inclusive to most of the population. So unless you had like a higher status, you you weren't shit, basically. When the contemporary age came along and making education more accessible and structured, from the 19th century onward, the public and free mandatory schools began to blossom. Like, that's when school kind of became open more to the public. Now, everyone was kind of able to go to school and receive education, as well as like females, but it was still like structured to an certain extent. And mostly it was a lot of And actually, a lot of studies that I read, it was actually surprising the amount of females, once this took place, rather than boys, applied for the schooling system, right? It was like, oh shit, this is like a whole different world. The girls are able to go to school now. The numbers showed once mandatory and public schools were opened, there was a lot of like girls and stuff like going, and it was like awesome. It was like great. Like, this is amazing. And with that, the 19th century onwards, public and free modern school blossomed, and that kind of brought to the postmodern age, 20th century, when modern education methods were like really questioned now. Like, they were kind of like looking at how education worked back then and what like the motivation and the goals were, and it really wasn't like lining up with modern day, just things were not working anymore, and they did not want to do that. So, as you would figure, they kind of like decided to change some things up a little bit. And while they did that, they really were able to make greater diversity and like access of higher education. That was one thing they really thought about, was bringing more courses available to not only men but like women and all subjects, basically trying to make like the more academic field more broad, I guess. And with that, we were able to come into, that brings us to the digital era, transforming education, how we learn completely with more accessible, dynamic, and interactive using online education, like COVID. Personally, I didn't learn during COVID. My siblings, all three of them, had to do, I look crazy, I know, had to do schooling during the COVID system, doing all that like homeschooling and all that stuff. Fuck, was that stupid, man. I'm sorry, what was that? They basically tapped out halfway through. If you already had like a set mark before like all that, I'm gonna take this off, before everything like took place, you were basically good. So it's just I don't even want to talk about it. It pisses me off. Fucking pisses me off. But anyways, with more modern education, we had like the online education, artificial intelligence, virtual and augmented reality. Awesome. I love that for us. Great. We're able to access more internet and do our schoolwork so much more easier. We get to do it in the comfort of our home. Fan-fucking-tastic. Great. And now that we kind of like understand the birth and I guess the like involvement of school and stuff. And that was just school. Like, this is not me bringing the gender stuff into it yet. We're getting there. This was just school in general, and the vibe I got from it was just like, it's always been kind of like a controlled motive to, train and educate these people to like do these things so they could keep other communities and stuff like that. Like, there was always like a higher power, higher anarchy, if you will. Like, it's just, and it was always just like primarily men. Like, women weren't really allowed to have these positions, and if you really like look into now, we still don't have a whole lot of like access and option to everything, which whatever, it's fine. No, it's not fine. Actually, no, I'm actually kind of pissed off about this. But I guess like even with all of knowing this, and even now with modern ways, like, when did the gender gap equality education, like in education, take place? And why and how did we get here? And has things really changed? Is like kind of like the main point of what I'm getting with this, because I personally don't think it has. And with a lot more research that I've done, it's kind of like validated my point and my like feelings. And I don't think I'm the only person that feels this way, because yes, I'm a woman and I'm going to be coming off as my like how it's affected me, but I'm also going to be advocating for how the education is also fucked over a lot of young men and in their life and education. So like it's not just about me. Like this is abroad. This is about everybody. And it's not about like not really about your gender, but it is, you know? And that's why I'm just like that's why I really did this research, to really understand why it seems so much more difficult than it needs to for people like me. This is where we hop. So as I furthered my research, we're really pinpointing the like evolvement and like the evolution of the school system and how it's really affect everyone over the years, and how it's just how we've gotten to where we are today. And you can clearly see throughout time, throughout history, how men have predominantly been the ones with access to education. You know, women have always really had to fight for the rights to learn and be a part of certain communities, and just looked at as, you know, an equal human being. So with knowing all that information of the education system, how it's evolved, how does the gender equality fall into that? And that's when I found that it wasn't till like prior to 1850, only middle class families would hire governesses and tutors to educate their daughters at home. So, like, unless you had the money and, like, you know, the status, you didn't get education as a woman. And even if, like, when you did have that status and that money, you were only allowed to, like, learn at home. You weren't allowed to learn in schools like the rest of the men and the boys and stuff like that. Like, it was a very private trust thing. But back then it was like, you know, it was really important for like family of high status to have their daughters and their wives be educated. Like, this was a really high quality and like a need. Like, it's not like nowadays where people are looking for like their dumb bimbos and their dumb wives and the dumb blondes. Like, it was a really good quality to be educated, and if you weren't, you were dirt. You were dirt. By 1871, with the establishment of free educational schools and private schools, but there was still like the issue that more advanced education for women, was only available in like private schools. So like, yes, now they were able to be in like the public schools and go to school amongst boys, but still, if you wanted like that higher education, you had to like go to a private school, which if your family did not have the money for, you weren't going. Sorry, girl, you weren't going. The curriculum was designed to train, like, once women and girls were allowed to like get education, it was still very structured. Like, it was very much different than what the boys were like doing and what they were learning. It was very structured to train women in the arts. So this was like a course back then. It was the arts and grace of life. And this was a program. I tried to do some research on it. It has definitely changed over the years. It's obviously a religious like program or whatever, but what I could really find was it was just basically preparing women to be like teachers and mothers, and like, you know, prepare for the home, how to take care of their husbands, how to just, you know, be a good, you know, just a good citizen. I don't fucking know. I want to say keep a woman in their place, but I don't want to get like that, but whatever. But mostly this program was to prepare them to become like a school teacher, because they wanted that. They wanted more education. They wanted to make that more available all over the world. But in Canada, primarily, yeah, they started like hiring women to be the teachers. I want to say like in the early 19th century, Canadian women taught children in private domestic settings. I did a lot of research, and that's when there was a lot of pioneer schools, primarily in like the BC, Edmonton area. And then some popped up in like, oh my God, Prince of Wales, Nova Scotia, Newfoundland area. You know, we had like little tiny like schools that had like the both boys and girls on the separate room, and those like tiny little in-room, one-room schools before they decided to, you know, make actual schools, I guess. But with this, obviously, because they hired women to do the schooling, it was still like they were still had to be supervised. Like men still supervised what they did. It was primarily men, like superintendents, and they were the ministers. And oh my God, it looked like Casper the Ghost. Good Lord. And by the 19th century, by 1900, school teachers or elementary school teaching was done almost entirely by women. And in 1872, the BC Superintendent of Education declared that a woman's mission was, in quote, predominantly that of an educator, end quote. It's just fucking disgusting, but okay, whatever. That change occurred largely because women could be hired at a lower wage than men, and at the time when the cost of like expanding school systems weighed heavily on the taxpayers. Like, yeah, we're gonna go ahead and hire some women at like really low wage. That's gonna be a good idea. We're gonna do that. Dirty bastards. Fucking pisses me off. Anyways. Now, let's bring it back to more recent times. What has this information told us, other than, men fucking suck ass and women have been made to do all these redonkulous fucking things over the fucking years? Like, what have we learned? And basically, the gender bias equality in education in Canada and around the world, according to UNESCO, some like newspaper article or whatever, are mainly determined by poverty. Like, that's what they said. Like, the education system, everything, all of that, the gender bias, whatever, is strictly on, poverty. Geographic isolation, minority status, disability, early marriage, unplanned pregnancy, and gender-biased violence. And despite all this, I was actually kind of surprised to see when recent decades, like statistics and numbers, women's education attainment had increased significantly in Canada back in 2016. So that's when they noticed a super big increase in women's education, apparently and allegedly, of what I read. According that at least 40.7% of young women aging 25 to 35 reported to having a bachelor degree or higher, up from the 24.8% in 2006. Okay, not bad. And because we can't forget our man, better boys. And 9% young men aged 25 to 35 having bachelor degrees and higher, up from the 24.8% 2006. The most recent 2023 Gender Education and Skill Report explained how more teen boys are more average to fail and to attain a basic level of proficiency in reading, mathematics, and science, and in rather than a higher performing girl. And the females, I guess, they don't continue inserting in development skills in the areas such as mathematics and science, comparing to the high-performing boys. Interesting. I thought this was facts I should put in. Despite the small overall gender gap in mathematics and sciences, young women continue to be underrepresented in the STEM programs, like there's not many women doing all of that, I guess. Like they're just it's just not a thing. It's still not. And as much as we want to talk about it, like honestly, it hasn't been till like recent they've started making programs, and they've been really trying to like be like, we need women in the workforce, we need, like more programs to like get women to want to do this, and we support women. And where the fuck was that when I was like originally in high school? What about me? Because we just talked about the high-performing boys and the high-performing gals, but let me tell you, I was not a high-performing gal. I was nowhere close to interested in all that fucking mathematics and sciences and nah. Like, I was an artsy-fartsy girl, don't get me wrong, but I really, like, struggled in those other things. It was, like, fucking Chinese to me, and then when I tried to learn it, like, in my own way, teachers got fucking annoyed with me, so that was just discouraging in itself, I guess. But we'll get back to that. Because all of this, and like, we're still so undermined and whatever, and even if we were to try to go for a more like STEM kind of program thing, women still earn, what is it, like 76% of what men's fucking income is? And they're like, I did all the research on like pension and retirement and all that stuff, and like it's actually kind of fucking ridiculous. Men get so much more than we do, and I just don't think that's fucking fair, but whatever, it's fine. Love that for us. It's cool. And it's not just like that fact of the men. Well, it is that men make like 76% of the earnings, or women earn 76% of the earnings of their male peers, simply in the fact that men tend to pursue studies in fields mainly that are higher earning jobs, like associate with higher earnings. And usually that's like engineering, manufacturing, construction, while women choose fields associated with like lower incomes, such as like education, welfare, arts, and humanity, which I think is like bullshit. But okay, whatever, it's fine. I love how I have to keep on telling me it's like, okay, it's fine, because like I don't want to like overreact, because it's like, this shit's not fine. This shit kind of like low-key fucking pisses me off. Oh, fucking pisses me off. What are we thinking so far? I don't know how I'd like this, but I feel like I'm doing okay. Trying to take an idea my boyfriend wanted me to do, and we're doing it. And then I like kind of got on this topic that like I've always personally felt like education has always been like super against women, and it always felt like a little bit harder for women, and I always thought like, oh, maybe it's just me, that's just me feeling this way. But I actually came across a couple articles, and the one article, and it actually kind of like made me laugh out loud, because I'm like, oh my god. But the article was literally like, why does it seem more urgent for women to graduate over men? And I'm like, this is it. This is what I want. This is what I want. Women still face like a gender pay gap, and as women become more education, opportunities for males, for male traditional jobs just seem to arise. They're more demanded. They're always here. Like the more male dominated job fields, particularly in Canada, are more demanding than you'd like to like the feminine dominant jobs. And as women are kind of like provoked and like encouraged to like continue on these educational routes and seek a higher education, more male dominant jobs seem to be just more available, and they are. And with that, like I already said, I did research and I was really like, okay, like what are the major work sectors and forces and what's like high demand in Canada? And a lot of things I read was like respectfully, not respectfully, but 3 out of 2 on the scale. So at least 85% of the job population of Canada is male dominated. Straight goods. Straight goods. And it's overall the workforce is largely male contracted roles. I went along and I did some digging, and really like once I figured out what the primary like jobs and sectors of Canada were, I was just like, well, fuck, I'm just not in the right fucking area. But then I did more research everywhere, and I'm not gonna put all that there because I'm Canadian and I don't plan on going anywhere soon because all whatever, all that other shit does not matter to me. But if you guys like, this was just what I found. If anyone's wondering, trades at the top of the list as our largest employment sector is obviously construction. Trades, huge. That is like all Canada is basically. Second, healthcare and social assistance. Third, manufacturing. Fourth, education. And finally, administration. Knowing this, I went ahead and wanted to actually see like numbers and actually want to do like statistics and stuff. And I looked at like some work or like an article that was updated in 2025 of major sectors of Canada and the occupations based on gender. Healthcare and social worker, women was a total of 81%, men 19%. A little bizarre. A little low, frankly. Contracting, women 13% and men were 87%. Forcing and logging, women 16%, men 84%. And manager roles, managerial roles, women 35%, men 65%. No fucking surprise there. The thing is, even after all these like centuries and everything, society is still very much in the headspace that women are more likely to be in like childcare and elderly care or any other like low paid contracted sector occupation, I guess. While like, you know, they kind of plant this idea in our head that that's what we're gonna do. Like, not even, yeah, okay. From when we were born, they like kind of like set this idea in your head, like, oh, be a teacher, be a nurse, be a this, you know, take care of old people, PSW. Which I have nothing against that. I love that. These are educations. These are fucking occupations and jobs that need to be fucking valued. But when that is all you were looked at as like a woman occupation kind of person, it's kind of fucking annoying. And those are like the courses that they like really give to you. Like I remember when I was in high school trying to take like boy dominated classes or like trades or like, you know, wood class, auto shop, we had like a computer tech course. Even then you could like notice that there was like predominantly more guys than girls. Like there was maybe like 3 females in these classes that I took over like the boy section. And even now, like when my brother went through school and my sister and my other brother, like you can just really predominantly see how like the education really is structured to like kind of guide and lead females to these certain like courses and educations that will like quote unquote better benefit them based on their gender, the more like gender bias roles, feminine dom roles, male dom roles, all that fun shit. And I think it's fucking stupid. You're giving nobody the fucking opportunity. And it's always been the thing, like, that, you know, society and the world's kind of, like, planted in girls' heads that education is, like, our strongest tool, our strongest weapon, and that we need to be educated, and it's our right, and which it is, because we fought so hard for so long, but guys, the education system was basically made to shut the women up, make us feel seen and validated, but in a way, control how men wanted us to, like, be perceived and, you know, work amongst the community, because women didn't have all these rights. But now we came into, like, this world where women's wanted rights and they didn't want us to have rights, and it was just all this fucking bullshit. And now we're here, and now it's the fact of trying to make everyone happy and content, but I don't think the education system was really, like, prepared for modern day problems and issues, and that's where we get on to now. And when I really look at school and how I feel about school, I hate it. I hold so much resentment with school. The education system completely fucking let me down, and I'm really trying to, like, make up for my previous teachers and mentors' failures, because now I'm here and I'm like, I'm still trying to have to fight for that, you know? And it's kind of sad that we live in a world where women have to be made to feel that education is their only weapon. That if you don't have, like, the education and the certification, you're not going to have a well-paid job. You're not going to be secure in life. You're going to have nothing. You're going to struggle. And it kind of already, like, plants a stress and, like, an anxiety into this, like, standard that doesn't need to fucking be there from a very fucking young age. Like, women without credentials or, like, a high-paying job, you're screwed. And if you don't take these courses and, you know, really thrive in educational, like, environments and get these credentials, you're not going to be able to get these feminine dominated jobs, because let's be realistic, a lot of the feminine dominated jobs require higher education, proper education. You need that certification to be a nurse or child care or elderly care or animal care, like the things that predominantly and have been selected as your female dominated jobs that require education, still to this day is, like, the norm. And that just doesn't work for me. I knew I was never going to be a doctor. I never knew I didn't want to be a teacher. I didn't want to do any of that. But when those were kind of like the only resources and the only options for me, and because I didn't excel to the expectation that the education system had for females in my age and whatever, blah blah blah, it fucked me. It did. And the society's message to girls was really like, education is your independence. You need a degree to be secure, where boys got work first, trades, apprenticeship, which made room for the pretension and urgency for girls and the flexibility for boys, which is fucking ridiculous. Here we go again with the boys just get to do whatever they want. They're guys. They can work no matter what. But these girls, they need to be educated. Go to school. We gave you the right and the opportunity to go to school. Go to school. If you don't go to school, you best hope you fucking marry, right? Like, it's just, oh my... shit be pissing me off. Genuinely, honestly. And it was actually kind of crazy because but I decided to like look further on, and it's just like, okay, what's like the graduation rates of recent years or whatever? And wow, it generally wasn't what I was expecting. Women make up at least 58.3% of the ungraduated students, raised to the 41.7% of men in Canada. Women are more likely to enroll and graduate from post-secondary programs than men, because men, they typically don't need a fucking secondary fucking education to get a goddamn job, but we still do. They get to just go ahead and whatever. They don't fucking... But with that, men are now at a higher rate, or like higher risk, education-wise, basically. Like, the amount of boys that are dropping out, they're not engaged, is, like, in the past, like, at least a decade or so. The percentage of, like, male dropouts than girl dropouts, significantly, basically because, a lot of things that I read were the co-op program, which is fantastic. We love that, but because these boys were able to go ahead and kind of find these trade jobs right away, where a lot of women were going into and finding more like advanced kind of like occupations that required like secondary like education and stuff like that. It was so much easier. These boys were like, well, I already have a job. What's the point of going to work? I'm making money. And education's like, yeah, that's great. We love that for you. You go do that. But the girls have to still stay here and required to fill and do their whole education because they have no other option unless they want to be broke and work these extremely low paid jobs. Fuck you. Fuck you. Oh, that shit. Okay. This is where we get... School pisses me off, okay? It's been an ongoing battle, guys. Like, I've been working my fucking ass off. I'm still trying to get my fucking high school diploma. I think I'm like, 3 fucking credits away. Good fucking God. But it pisses me off. Like, my brother, again, not name dropping because he has not given me permission to, like, whatever, but respectfully, if you hear this, sir, you graduated on a goddamn technicality. I have more credits than you. But because you have a PP and can hold tools and withstand quote-unquote manly duties, they just did not give a flying fuck. They're like, here you go. You want a diploma? Here you go. Here you go. And because you're a boy, you got a very well-paid job. Yes, it wasn't a good fit for him. I'm glad he got out of it, because that was just sketch central. But, then he got gifted with another job. A very good, well-paying job with good responsibility, which I'm fucking happy for him, obviously. But here I am still struggling. I've been working since the age of fucking 14. I have a long history of work credentials, and it just don't matter. They don't care. They're like, well, this and that, and we really oh, well, good for you, because Jesus Christ, I don't know what else I have to do for them to take me more seriously, for them to want to actually, like, I don't know. I've worked so many jobs. I've already learned retail is not my cup of tea. I hate people. People fucking annoy me. I don't have the toleration to sit there and pretend like I care about bitches all goddamn dick. So, I don't know. I guess it's a little bit more harder for me when it comes to finding what's gonna work for me. And maybe, yeah, I'd need to get my degree so I can find a job that is a little bit more, suits me better. That'd be great. If I could do this in my business for the rest of my life, I would, but I know that's not going to like give me the proper income that I need to do what I need to do. This is just like kind of for fun. This is to put my positive energy somewhere, help other people, feel some love, show some love to people, you know. That's the main goal of this, and that's what we're doing. But on the topic of school, I thought might as well. Why does this topic bother you so much, Jordan? Why are we talking about this? Who gives a fuck? Okay, picture this, alright? Young Jordan. It's like junior kindergarten. I live in Apsley. School was okay, you know. I got into a few little scraps, a few little thingy bobbers. Things were great. Had a nice teacher. A black bear broke my front door down looking for garbage. So my mother decided that we're gonna move to Peterborough. Moved to Peterborough, I went to Court Heights for, I believe, the rest of junior kindergarten, SK grade 1 and 2, I think. Yeah, grade 1 and 2. My parents split when I was in grade 2, and then we had to find somewhere else to go, other house, grade, and like school's great. Like I said, we're fine. We're still on good track. Doing great. We're doing lovely. Where did we go after that? For the rest of grade 3 and half of grade 4, I went to Roger Nielsen, and this is when shit really hit the fan for me. Maybe because I was experiencing the fact that my parents were splitting and I was going through a lot of stuff at home, but this is when I kind of got a full, like, how do I even describe this? A full understanding of, like, how unpatient the school system is, I guess. I was really struggling. I wasn't doing a lot of my schoolwork. I wasn't participating in, like, group activity. I didn't really want to play at recess. I wasn't like doing what a typical third grader should be doing. So they decided that they were gonna go ahead, put me in this program and give me an IEP for my reading and writing and for my verbal reading. And I'd be like removed from my classes. They would take me to do these assignments and do reading with all these other kids. I just always felt like I was like being kind of like picked on, and I was already going through so much as a kid. It kind of like added on to a lot of those like feelings, and I just had no real like intention or give a fuck to do anything. And my parents were getting kind of concerned. My teachers were getting kind of concerned. But anyways, that was just grade 3. That's where it just all kind of started for me, I guess. So we did half grade 3, half of grade 4. I went to Armor Heights. And Armor Heights was like not too bad for like half of grade 4. My teacher was like this really sweet, hippy dippy kind of like teacher. She was super sweet. She always like read us books. She was like she spoke English, but she could also like speak French and stuff. So she was also our French teacher. So she was like always with us. She was like our primary teacher. She did everything with us. Loved her. Sweetheart. Wish I could remember her name, but I really don't. Then we get to grade 5. Yeah, grade 5. And grade 5 was fucking hell for me. I had this old bitch of a fucking teacher. She was rude as fuck. She hated my guts. I hated her guts. This woman, essentially, you know those, like, agendas you get? Yeah, anyways, you know what I'm talking about. She sent a note home to my mom in my agenda saying, FYI, your daughter can't read. I have an IEP. So my mom sends back in my agenda, back in the note, like, FYI, after line, she has an IEP. Read her notes. do your job. I'm dropping everything. But preach mama. Preach mama. Time goes on. This teacher still continues to like low-key harass me. I have a hard time reading publicly. This is why this is a growth thing for me too. Like as I'm reading notes and I'm like presenting to you guys, this is my own self-development, my own self-growth, because this was a fear I always had because this teacher like traumatized me. And this is where we get to the fact where we would read in front of the class and she would actually laugh at me. She would make fun of me. She would have the rest of the kids like laugh with me or like laugh at me. It was awful. Awful. But this kind of like built onto young Jordan's like really rebellious young phase of her life. I was very angry. I hated life. I was just not fun to be around. So near almost the end of grade 5, my mom like she was talking about getting a new house, all that stuff. So we were like in the process of moving. My stepmom was pregnant with my little sister, and I'm gonna be honest, at the time I was not overly fucking thrilled about having a little sister. I was very upset that my role as my daddy's little girl was going to be compromised. I felt like my childhood was robbed of having like a happy 2-parent household, so I was kind of mad to think that, my dad's other kids were going to be getting this experience that me and my brother never got. And there's just a lot of emotion. But, I was this young preteen girl, really wasn't thinking much, but obviously a lot more emotion came with that and a lot more issues. So young Jordan decided to start a fight with this girl who used to make fun of me when I tried to read in class. And it turns out that she was the principal's daughter. Chinese bitch. And at the end of the day, while everyone was heading to buses or about to like walk home, I went over and grabbed her by her backpack strap and we started to scrap. Jordan copped another suspension. Mother was not happy with me. Don't blame her. But at this point, Mom was like, you know what? I already have this other house. Basically, we're good. Like, paperwork's done. We're moving. We don't have to deal with the school again. Let's just fucking go. So we ended up moving. And for grade 6, I went back to Corth Heights, the school I went to for the rest of junior kindergarten, senior kindergarten, grade 1, 2, and a bit of 3. And it wasn't too bad. I was still kind of like outcasted from the rest of the kids because of my IEP. The school really main focus was to focus on kids struggling education-wise and stuff like that, which, yeah, props, love that for you guys, but like really made everyone who was struggling in that aspect feel super fucking outcasted. And I guess I just never really liked how I wasn't able to, take the tests and assignments in the same classroom as my classmates. And now looking back, I just realized it's just because they really wanted to be able to focus and, I guess, help me the best they could, rather than like being in like a full classroom setting, which like I can understand now, but at the time That shit really fucking sucked. It really rubbed me the wrong way. Grade 6 was good. Graduated. We're fine. We go to James Strath. Grade 7 teacher, or grade 8 teacher, loved her. Super sweet. She really helped me excel in my, like, English. I was, I guess the IP program or whatever, they were trying to say that I was, like, 3 levels below my actual reading level, which I always thought was, like, bullshit, but whatever. Turns out it was bullshit. Did some assignments with me, some whatever. She's like, girl, you're totally fine. Like, you're good. You're good. That was 7. Okay, yeah, 7. So grade 8 comes. I had this guy teacher, forget his name, but he was like a hockey teacher on his like free time. And one theme I really noticed about the setup of the classrooms in grade 8, and I don't know if it's just me like really overthinking it, but I was in the stupid class. I don't know how to say this without saying that, but we had one class, I think his name is Armstrong. Those were like the really smart advanced kids in that class. Like they were like really, really, really smart. And then you had, I forget what her name was, but she was like a prissy little bitch. And those were like your like average kids, I guess. Yeah, you're average. And then you had this other class that were like the like super advanced. Super advanced. Like these kids were like, not disrespect, but like bit of that tism ran in there, if you know what I mean. Then there was my class with all the fucking obnoxious, stupid ass jocks, the fucking loud fucking stick a pencil in your nose, obnoxious assholes that talked about hockey. And my teacher used to stop us mid-class to watch hockey. I put in my assignment, he'd look at it, and he'd mark it right in front of me. He never read it. I know he didn't. But whatever. Past grade 8. We made it another year. Grade 9. This is when I think things really hit the fan for me. I was not the best student. I wasn't in the best friend group either. I was always in trouble. I never really went to school. I skipped a lot. I was a fucking asshole. I was a pain in the ass. But my teachers didn't really help either. They didn't really make me feel like they really gave a shit about what I was doing. That year came and passed, and then grade 10. I don't know what the okay, no, I know I do. I do know what I did. I'm not gonna get into those details here, but I pissed some people off. I was running an organization in the school, and they were catching up to it. And whenever shit went down, I would be the first person they would kind of give a call to. Ring ring, can Jordan McKenzie come down to the office? And I come down. Oh my god, my face. My poor face. And I guess they had enough of this shit. My parents had enough of this shit. And they finally decided that they were going to give me like 2 set teachers for my 4 courses. So my first period teacher would be my 3rd period teacher, and my 2nd period teacher would be my 4th period teacher. Just to keep some eyes on me. I think that was cute. So I told my science teacher, my 3rd period teacher, / my 1st period math teacher, to go fly her lesbian ass into a storm with a kite. I lost her as a science and math teacher. I had a big fight take place at my house that involved some people with the school. Long story short, let's just say Crestwood no longer wanted anything to do with me. So the options they gave me were Crestwood, Honor, or Pace. Nay. My mom was like, well, she ain't gonna last more than a week. I guess we're just gonna have to go Pace. Just go to Pace for a bit. If you've gone Pace, that place is fucking rigged. They don't give a flying fuck about you. Students don't give a flying fuck about the teachers. They completely fucked my education. Tell me how I ended up doing, like, 6 courses of fucking art, and I still didn't get any of my mandatory fucking classes. What? And then I ended up getting pregnant. Topic for a whole other story. Got put in the Young Moms program, doing really, really, really well. The fact that there's a good possibility that I'm going to be able to graduate a month or 2 before my son's due. Obviously, my son comes a little bit early. Got put on bed rest. Shit happens. I wasn't ready to go back to school. And I was obviously wasn't over traumatic for that, because that was some fuck shit. Who the fuck would want to go back to school after that? Especially like a month right after. So now I have the fucking school board emailing me, calling me, trying to get my attention, being like, when are you coming back to school? You need to attend back to school, harassing me, basically telling me that if I don't come back to school, there's gonna be consequences, this, that, the other. So I straight up tell them, my kid died. I will not be going back to school anytime soon. And if you guys can't, like, deal with that, like, then go fuck yourselves, basically. Like, I don't know what else you want to hear from me. I don't know what else you want me to say. So eventually I do go and talk to guidance counselor, superintendent, whatever. Explain my situation, talk to her. I had asked that due to my situation and how close I was to, getting all of my credits and graduating, asked if it was possible for me to, finish my course in the Young Moms program, because that's where I felt safe. That's where my friends were. And I just felt like that was gonna be like the best option for me. What's wrong with that, right? This lady looks at me and straight up says, well, that's just not a possibility anymore, because you're just not a mom, and you can't be down there because you're not a mom. The fuck did you just say to me? Like, what? When I tell you, I cleared that bitch's desk off so goddamn motherfucking quick and stomped my ass out of that fucking school. As security's chasing me down and be like, excuse me, fuck you. I'ma keep on moving because there's nothing left else to be said. You're not. I hope you get hit by a bus. You insensitive fucking cunt. God damn. So obviously Jordan didn't want to do school anymore. School was out the window. I wasn't doing that shit no more. I was already working, doing my fucking thing. My son's dead. I'm just like, what the fuck else is there for me to do at this point? Went to work, did some time, some self-growth. But even now, even going back into the education system and trying to get my diploma and all that stuff, in my opinion, this still feels like war towards women. Yes, we have all these rights and opportunities we never had before, and women are slowly making their way into male-dominated occupations, and more resources, educations are being given to us at a cost. But if you really look at like the fine print of everything and actually like look deep into it, into like the arterial motive, it's still the same. Like, society is still quietly shaping women of the next generation to become what society thinks is normal or traditional, rather than narrowing the gender gap and fostering equal opportunities and becoming more aware of their own like consequences, or their own conscious and unconscious biases, so that we can give both girls and boys equal chances for success in school and beyond. Addressing gender stereotypes at home and at school could be exactly what stops gender gaps in its tracks. Finding different strategies to tackle the traditional gender stereotypes, from curriculum arrangements to prepare teachers and school staff with relevant knowledge and skills, to various target bias and stereotypes, addressing like the feminization of the teaching profession through adequate and like compassionate and public like restrictions, basically. Education systems should tackle issues of like disarranging and the lack of motivation early on in the development of like education and the attention spans and like resources issues. Times have changed and economy and society has evolved. The education system structure still tends to fall back on old ways, just modernizing to fit today's like demands. until we stop looking at workforces as like male dominated and female dominated and like school wise stuff like that, and creating more gender equality safe places and curriculums, for like it's the same shit, different decade, basically. We need to start like looking at the bigger fucking picture, and that's like making everything equal equality, gender equality. Like that shit is really fucking important. But I do believe we're like heading on the right track, and I don't know if I might be like thinking too much into this or if I'm just bitter because the education system failed me tremendously. But this was a topic I felt was important to me to look into and maybe take some weight off my shoulders and maybe some off of yours. That the universe didn't just like pick on me or on you. Like we weren't just like singled out. Yes, I didn't fall into like the high performing category for girls and stuff. I don't have a whole lot of credentials, and there's so much more and more to than just me being a troubled child and being dumb, which was something I always thought I was. The traditional school system never took into consideration of all the other features and modern day like challenges. Because this is research, like this research just proven that, and we as we like reach the end of this episode, I guess I just want to thank everyone for tuning back in, and this wouldn't be possible without all of you. And I really hope this was a subject that kind of brought some clarity for everyone. This was a topic that it's always like really bugged me and has always just been a struggle, and I feel like it's still like same shit, different decade. Women are still struggling to like have these resources for education and the workforces, and it's still very diverse and very man dominated. And I think it's very important that we try to like equalize that playing field for not just women, for men too, because they're also being neglected. Their education is being kind of like half-assed because they're able to just go into the workforce all willy-nilly. They don't need that second like post-secondary education to already have these high-paying jobs. Those jobs are already available to them where they are not for women. And I feel like the education system is a little wonky. Their like perspective and like idea and foundation of the education system, I feel, really needs to be updated for modern day needs and equalities and dependencies, and just to like really pinpoint on like poverty, and just there's just so much more than what it originally started out to be. And that was to, structure and train human beings to fall in line to these certain expectations and to these controlled, domesticated communities of what the world used to be before. But thank you all for coming back. That was a lot. I had a lot of fun, and I got my makeup done, and we're looking good, and we're having fun. So, I will be posting again next week. I would love if anyone has any thoughts or ideas on anything. But yeah, guys, until next time, I love you all so much. Thanks again, squirrely friends. Bye-bye.